What's up, guys? Little impromptu Ultimate Cavs show. This popped up last minute on my radar, and I saw something on Twitter that I had to address because if tomorrow wasn't a day after Browns game, we would address it on UCSS. We may still have time, but I wanted to make sure we at least got something up on this before Wednesday when it kind of blows over. But Michael Scotto of HoopsHype.com reported that the Cleveland Cavaliers are one of a few teams that are interested in Washington Wizards forward Kyle Kuzma. There was no report about an imminent trade coming. They're just keeping tabs on the Wizards forward as the season progresses because in Washington, they stink. Kuzma doesn't necessarily fit their timeline, and he has a pretty appealing contract in terms of the way it's structured. He signed a 4-year, $90 million deal with Washington back in 2023, but if you actually look at the numbers, it's a declining contract. He made the most money in the first year of the deal, and it goes lower and lower and lower year by year. And as the salary cap increases like it's expected to, that contract becomes pretty favorable and pretty easy to fit into a cap sheet, especially for a player of his relative caliber. He's had two different parts of his career. We're going to talk about that in a sec in terms of how he'd fit with the Cavs. But over the next 2 seasons, if you got him this year, he's making $23.5 million. Next season, his salary, $21.47. And then in 2026, 2027, the last year of his deal, it drops all the way down to $19.4 million. So a pretty reasonable contract in terms of Kyle Kuzma. On Saturday, I hopped on this platform and said the Cavs have a wing issue in terms of they don't have any true wings with legitimate size to match up with some of the wings that Boston has and some of the wings that Atlanta has on a consistent basis. And although Darius Garland did an admirable job guarding Jason Tatum yesterday, you'd feel a little better if a guy with some actual size was the primary defender on guys like that, or Paolo Banchero, or name any of the big wings across the NBA. Kyle Kuzma, who does have a ton of shortcomings, and we'll talk about him as a player in a sec, well, he does have size. He's 6'9", 225. ESPN has him listed at 223, so pick your choice, 220, 225. And he's relatively athletic for a player of that size. Like, he fits the mold of what you'd want from a size standpoint in the 3-4 combo position. He's a big wing. Is he a great shooter? This season, he's having a bad shooting season. He's shooting just 28% from threes this season, but throughout his career, he's about a 34% three-point shooter, so more of a streaky shooter than anything else. You look at his stats this year, they're down across the board. Washington's horrendous. They didn't win a single game in the month of November, excuse me. They've lost, I believe, 14 in a row. So take it with a grain of salt. They're a bad team. He's part of the core there. And if Washington wants to blow it up, so be it. So the question is, should the Cavs be interested? And is he the right fit if the Cavs decide that they're going to make a move to acquire a bigger wing in the coming weeks? Okay, let's figure it out. First and foremost, how does Kuzma theoretically fit into the Cavs core? Because if the Cavs are going to acquire Kuzma, they're not breaking up the core four. They're not breaking up the foundation of this team to bring in Kyle Kuzma. He'd be a guy that comes and fits into what's already been established, foundationally speaking, with the Cavs, not replacing one of the main guys. How does he fit? Well, he certainly gives you an upgrade from a size advantage. In the Cavs, if they had a 6'9 Kuzma, a 6'11 Mobley, and a 7-foot Jarrett Allen on your front line, would be one of the biggest teams in basketball. Yes, their guards are undersized on the perimeter, but on the interior, that's Jumbotron in terms of 6'9 with length, 6'11 super athletic, and Evan Mobley. So there you go. That's at least one advantage it gives you. Kuzma's a pretty good playmaker. His assist numbers aren't great, but he's a pretty good playmaker from the wing position, and that's something the Cavs don't have a ton of right now, which is playmaking skills and a playmaking skill set from the guys they have at that big wing. So, I'm not talking Karis LeVert. I'm not talking Ty Jerome. We're looking more at the Max Struces, the Jalen Tysons, who aren't 6'9", but don't have a ton of playmaking from that 3-4 spot. From a shooting standpoint, he's not a great three-point shooter. He's just not, and he's shooting exceptionally poorly this season. Career worst, 28% on almost 4.5 attempts per game. So I don't love the fit from a shooting standpoint, but overall, yeah, he answers some issues that the Cavs theoretically have on paper or holes in their roster they don't currently have. Another thing to consider with any potential trade, whether it's Kuzma, Cam Johnson, Jeremy Grant, any of the big wings, Herb Jones, DeAndre Hunter, whatever it is, the way the Cavs roster sheet looks right now, They are just, and I mean like literally just above the first apron of the luxury tax. And they have said time after time after time, we don't want to start the luxury tax repeater clock until next season when the extensions to Mobley and Donovan Mitchell kick in. They can say that. We'll see what reality happens when you're staring at a team that may be in first place in the Eastern Conference come the trade deadline. However, whether they decide to go into the first apron and potentially the second apron, or whether they decide to shed salaries with the extensions to Allen, DG, Mobley, and Donovan Mitchell, they really only have room for one bigger salary without trading off one of those four, right? So you can't fit everybody. You can't fit everybody into that salary sheet, but you can fit one more guy without totally exploding and ruining your chances of having any team building foundational structure moving forward. So the question you'd have to ask yourself, is Kyle Kuzma, is Jeremy Grant, is Cam Johnson, is Herb Jones doesn't make that much money, but is a guy like that, a DeAndre Hunter, is that the move that the Cavs are willing to lock themselves into? Because once they make a move like that, that is the roster for the next 3-4 years. Now, they could obviously trade one of the big pieces, but I'm saying the core four plus whoever is essentially the foundation of the team for the next 3-4 years. And I know Kuzma has 2 years left on his contract. I'm just saying, theoretically speaking, whoever they would go out and acquire in that situation is the last piece of the puzzle, essentially. And you'd have to assume that they would make a move like that with the hope that that is the final piece of a championship puzzle. And when I think of this situation with Kyle Kuzma, do I think Kyle Kuzma is the difference between the Cavs competing for a championship as currently constructed, or with Kyle Kuzma, is they have a significantly better chance? I don't think he moves the needle that much. Like, I think they'd be better and a little more versatile, and he could play the 3-4 alongside Mobley and or Jared Allen, which would allow you to play some more shooting on the perimeter. He's certainly not a bad addition, but I'm not quite sure that's the move I want to go all in on if I'm the Cavs and lock myself into that 5-player Garland, Mitchell, Kuzma, Mobley, Allen, that 5-man unit, let's just call it, as the way I'm going to move. And same with Jeremy Grant. Like, he's an upgrade, but I don't know if that's the guy that necessarily brings you over the top. So I'd have a lot of hesitations. I would. And Kyle Kuzma, like I said, does answer some of their issues. He has size to defend bigger wings. He can play make from the wing position, which is something they don't particularly have at the moment. But I'm just not quite sure that's the move. And you could say, well, McNuggets, will a player of that caliber ever come available? And do the Cavs have enough assets to acquire said player? You're probably right. So maybe Kuzma would be the best of the options in that realm, but I'm not ready to blow it up and decide at this moment in time today on December 2nd that Kuzma would be the best option. They don't necessarily have to match salaries like exactly, because Washington's not in that same tax situation. They're not over the salary cap. So you can get a little cute and fancy with Washington taking on more salary than you get back, but you have to essentially match around $23-ish million. A trade package, just for example, I'm just putting numbers. I'm not saying this is the deal. I'm just putting numbers out there. But something like Karis LeVert, Jalen Tyson, and a second-round pick or 2 second-round picks, something like that would be the package for a Kyle Kuzma. You could argue he's not a winning player. I mean, look at his success in Washington. They have been a train wreck since he arrived, and him and Jordan Poole have been the pillars of what that organization is trying to build. So I don't necessarily think that what he does has translated to winning, but I also go back to when he was a younger player with the Lakers, and he did some really, really, really good things and played really, really, really well off ball with LeBron James. And I'm curious, for any team looking to acquire Kyle Kuzma, you'd have to be hoping you could kind of channel that version of Kyle Kuzma, not the modern era version of Kyle, and fit that into your offensive system and defensive system, as opposed to the guy who right now is kind of doing whatever he wants on Washington because they have absolutely no system. In terms of what the Cavs can trade, I see a couple comments in the chat here saying Cam Johnson, Jalen Johnson. The Hawks aren't trading Jalen Johnson. Just you could just throw that. They're not trading Jalen Johnson. That's not happening. So as fun as he would be and as great of a fit as he would be, it ain't gonna happen. You mentioned Cam Johnson. I see Aaron says the price is too high. I agree. The Nets said they want 2 first-round picks as a starting point for Cam Johnson. He's having an incredible season in Brooklyn. And there are a lot of teams around the league that can use a 6'8" guy who can defend and shoot like Cam Johnson. The Cavs can only trade one first-round pick, and that's 2031. I just have a hard time believing whatever the Cavs were to offer the Nets for Cam Johnson, another team wouldn't be able to match and or up their offer pretty significantly. I just don't think that's a realistic opportunity or situation for the Cavs, which is a bummer because on paper, he is the absolutely perfect fit. In terms of Kuzma, if he came here, I don't know. I'm just not a huge Kyle Kuzma fan. And I guess I'd just rather say that out loud. I don't particularly love his game. We had the whole Trae Young discussion. There are certain players on not so great franchises that put up numbers that I don't think necessarily translate into winning. And I'm not 100% confident what Kuzma does translates to winning. But I also go back to, like I said, his rookie season and his first couple of years in Los Angeles when he was playing with LeBron and AD, how valuable he was to their championship run. So he has it in him. Is he willing to take a reduced role in an offense that already features Mobley, Donovan, Darius? When Strus comes back, Strus, Ty Jerome, and if LeVert's still on the team, LeVert, but I think he'd have to be shipped out just so you could get somewhere close to matching salaries. So yeah, long picture, long story short, Michael Scotto of HoopsHype reported the Cavs are one of a few teams keeping a tab on Kyle Kuzma as the season progresses. Like I said, his salary is not terrible, but I don't love the idea of locking yourself into Kyle Kuzma as the missing piece. I don't think he takes you from wherever you believe the Cavs are now to bona fide certified championship favorite. And maybe a better player isn't going to come up that fits what the Cavs need, but I just don't like Kyle Kuzma. If you're going to make a move for a guy like that, I prefer Brandon Ingram over Kyle Kuzma. But as you guys know from this offseason, I'm also not a giant Kyle Kuzma fan, not a giant Brandon Ingram fan. Cam Johnson from the Nets is, like I said, the perfect fit, but I don't think there's any way the Cavs have the assets to require him. If we're being honest with ourselves, we're just being honest. The Cavs have a 2031 first-round pick, a bunch of second-round picks. They have Karis LeVert's expiring contract, and Jalen Tyson. I have no idea what Jalen Tyson's trade value is. Absolutely no idea. It's not a lot. It's just not a lot to trade. Unless they're going to blow up the core four, but I'm not living in a world where the Cavs are in any scenario to do that at the moment. So, yeah, there's a report out there. At least the Cavs are keeping tabs on Kyle Kuzma. Let me know in the comments what you think about Kyle Kuzma. Would he be the missing piece for the Cavaliers to put them right up, if you didn't believe they're already there, right up with the Bostons and the OKCs and whoever else is in that bona fide, legitimate championship tier contender list? Because I'm just not sure Kyle Kuzma moves the needle that much to put you in that elite category. Can he play? Yeah, he can play. Would I hate the move? Well, it depends on what they give up. But I don't think it would be a whole lot considering Washington is probably looking just to get off that contract and acquire any kind of draft capital they could use in their rebuild. Plus, their GM, Emerson guy, which means he's a smart guy. So maybe he is want to help out a team. But yeah, my gut says no on Kyle Kuzma. I think the Cavs can do better. But it is worth monitoring, and it is worth noting that at least this early into the season, on December 2nd, there are reports out of the Cavs front office that they are keeping tabs on guys who fit the physical profile of a big wing. And that is certainly something I think we could all agree that the Cavs don't have at the moment and could probably benefit from down the stretch. I will talk about this more sometime this week on UCSS. I'm not sure if it'll be tomorrow in the aftermath of a Browns Monday Night Football game. It probably depends how the game goes, but we'll talk about this definitely on Wednesday, and we'll try to find some other potential big wings that fit the Cavs financially, stylistically, and as most importantly, realistically. Because I don't like having trade discussions about guys that have 0.0% chance of coming here. It's more fun to discuss guys that actually could end up in a Cavs uniform at some point. It's just a matter of what the compensation is and does it make the team significantly better. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow on UC. I'll see you tonight, actually. We'll see you tonight on a 2-minute warning show for the Cleveland Browns Denver Broncos game. Until then, I'm McNuggets. Peace.